a good start, a good sleepy start.
Yeah, just being 41. Yeah, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait until December when I'm
That's
probably
right.
getting shoulder surgery.
Ooh, nice. That's gonna be fun. And a happy belated birthday to you, sir.
Thank you.
I know I wish it to you on your birthday in three different media ways, but now that
Yeah,
we're
it
on
wasn't
stream, here's a
wasn't
fourth.
really enough actually. It didn't feel like you were trying all that hard.
Well, happy birthday on stream then. Now I'm trying harder, face to face.
In a place that you're like professionally obligated to be.
And I'm also professionally obligated to be nice to you as well.
Gosh. Yeah, so
Yes, Chad has turned 41.
I don't
So
recommend.
if you're if you're watching now, which is all two of you on Facebook, Chad is 41. Let's wish him a big happy birthday,
Yay.
and we'll do it again when we have more people on. But happy 41st birthday to Chad. Um,
Well, I don't know.
but
I know
yeah,
you're not gonna be able
so
to hear this.
we're here.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about cars and trucks. It's gonna be fun.
Yes, it's gonna be a good day. Always a pleasure to God, my eyes are dry as hell too, so well not well itchy, I
It's gonna
guess.
be
Yeah,
good.
it's gonna be fun. I
Yeah.
yeah, can't wait. But
Ooh, that's cool.
oh, what are we cooling?
Oh, so instead of my other computer, which is my work computer that I usually use for backend, I'm just monitoring us on mobile, and there is a really cool button that you can use to flip it. You can either flip your phone, or there's a button you can use to actually flip it wide angle, which is pretty sweet. Didn't realize you could actually do that. That's nice.
Oh, is it your job to know these things?
I mean, define job.
Social media presence slash content creator for 11 or so years.
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell.
Uh,
Don't know it.
hey, Christ.
Yeah. So Chad's very tired because Chad went on a
I was on a
bachelor
bachelor
weekend
weekend this
for one of his
weekend, and
buddies.
it was a
So Chad is extra tired, and it's Wednesday, and he still has not recovered from the sleep.
well. I got maybe 4 hours of sleep the whole weekend. Then Monday rolls around, and I'm always been one of those people who's like, I would much rather wake up early and get shit done and then be home than like sleep in and be in the office till like 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And with the way that my job is right now, is that I'm going into the office every day, which is not part of the agreement, which was not part of the deal. But short version is I have to sort of suck it up for. Well, it's already been 2 weeks. It's probably going to be another 2 weeks until I can go back to being remote. Well, not remote, but like
Yeah.
effectively only showing up when like big things happen, whether it be a sales call, whether it be a site walk or a face to face or whatever. Um, and even that, I'm trying to groom two people to do the sort of smaller, because like there's so many companies that the company I work for works with that it's going to
Mm,
happen to where I'm at one meeting and there's going to be another company that needs a face to face or a site inspection or something to that effect, and I
right.
need someone to be able to do that. So that I'm basically, for lack of a better terminology, I'm not starting at I'm not starting at like stage zero, as we like to say in the automotive world. Um,
Yes.
which is good, but I'm starting just above that. So there's a lot of training, there's a lot of educating, there's a lot of like, how did you what? Oh, I want to send you back to your original department. And I've jokingly said that to these people, but like, we found a good groove. I have two employees that I can trust. I have four that are good people, good workers. They just don't have the knowledge base that I thought I would have them. So I decided, in my
Sure.
infinite wisdom, it's social media marketing. So in my infinite wisdom, I came up with I thought was an absolutely brilliant idea. I said I assigned each one of them a social media platform and told them to become a not a subject matter expert, but like an expert at going into the back end, finding reports, being able to tell me how shit is going on, how to post, like all that stuff. And then in next week,
Right.
they're going to teach the other 3 how to do it. Because in my
Nice.
experience, the best way to learn something is to be forced to teach it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad call. Social media is a weird animal in itself.
Yeah, well,
We're 11 years in, and we're still learning things.
yeah, well, it's one of those things where the biggest thing is to learn how to stop yawning, but right after that is to learn how to spot trends, but also have a groundwork to where, because social media changes every 6 months. It just does.
Oh yeah.
So being able to learn and adjust and to effectively, find out find out what's doing well, what we need to do more of, is the bigger thing than
Yeah.
literally knowing the nuts and bolts. But we're all
Right.
getting there. Douglas, welcome to the show. We are live. We have Greg for a second week in the row. So let's all count our lucky stars.
Yes, I'm here again.
Fortunately, we've gotten Greg to stop walking around licking doorknobs, so he's not as sick as usual.
Yep. Now, my wife is not feeling great, so I passed it on to her.
You're a good husband, Greg.
Mm-hmm. Sure am.
But how are you, my good sir?
Oh, I'm good. I was just saying, interesting feature on Facebook when I'm on my phone that I can't see in the back end on desktop is I can actually see the people who are coming in and I can call them out. So it's Pharrell Young, Gary Ashburn, Stephanie Ceratelli, Kyle Cooper, Matthew Brisbane Flynn, Dave Anderson, Doug Franz, of course, Mark Miller, David Woolworth. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. Like you guys joining, watching, liking, subscribing, hitting the bell icon. Oh wait, that's YouTube.
We're live there too.
But yeah, that's right. Live on YouTube as well. Larry Rhodes, welcome. Robert Thompson, welcome. I'm doing well. Everything's good on this end. I'm finally feeling better. Back to getting enough sleep. And yeah, I want to continue the conversation we had from last week because both of us, I was still under the weather. You were exhausted. You were having some allergy stuff, and yeah, just wanted to continue that conversation. But mostly, I wanted to start off tonight because, like we said, you were at a bachelor weekend, but you got some seat time in a truck,
Shocking.
which was very cool.
Yeah. So actually, a couple of my friends So my friends and my one friend's father all have.
You have friends. We get it. Continue.
Listen, my one remaining brain cell is working overtime at the moment. They all have Rams, and not only do they have Rams, they have Ram 2500s. However, my other friend, he's a bit of a, what's the word? He goes above and beyond. He has that type of personality, like above and beyond. So he went out and got a Power Wagon 2500 that is already lifted from factory, has a bunch of cool stuff on it. I wonder if I saved a picture of it. But in addition...
But it's a sick truck.
Yeah. And in addition to the... In addition to all of that from factory, he also put a 3-inch lift kit, bigger wheels, bigger tires and stuff. So the thing is a fucking beast, and it's like, nice. I need a fucking ladder to get into it. Like, it is fucking insane. But I got some seat time driving it, and I mean, where we were this weekend was in the middle of I have no fucking idea, Pennsylvania, which was random. It was so weird to me because we drove through just an epic amount of nothing. And then this like area around this lake was all of these just huge homes, and people with like I saw like 3 cyber trucks. Like there's money around here.
Oh my gosh.
I had never heard of it until this weekend, uh, and it was just so it was so weird. But at any rate, um, the roads were tiny and narrow and crowned. We did some. There was some dirt roads and stuff, and this thing was way too big, right? Like it just you. But there was also this. I mean, it has the full steel bumpers. It has winches, both front and rear. Although the power of a winch for a 2500 has got to be obscene. It's got to be for pulling other shit out.
Oh,
But
100%.
it was such. I mean, apart from the fact that the steering wheel felt more suggestive than a direct connection to the front wheels, it's such a cool truck because you do end up with that air of, oh man, this thing's huge. I might hit something. To the, I don't. This thing is huge. I don't care if I hit something because sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not losing. It was such a cool truck, and I started thinking about it. I was like, this thing with a Whipple, I think I'd rather it over a TRX. Like,
Damn. Okay.
just because of just
That's cool.
the beastly nature of this thing, the fact that it is still a 2500, so like I could, even though it's on lifted suspension, you could still tow shit, a ton of shit. It was a really cool experience. I like I said, I've been thinking about a pickup truck for a while now. I'd have a pickup truck right now if it wasn't for fire, but
It's actually true. 100% correct.
but
Doug, thank you for the 100 stars. Appreciate that, sir. And please enjoy your port. I will be enjoying my sour juice.
Doug also goes, I finally used my tire changing machine today. It's the single greatest, quote, right tool for the job, end quote, I've ever experienced compared to hand tools. Highly recommended after owning it for a year. Wait. Tire changing machine. Is that like,
Yeah, he bought a tire changing machine.
what is it, an F1 pit crew? I'm trying to figure out what it. Are you talking about the thing that actually takes the tire on and off of the rim?
Yeah, like the thing with like the
waves?
like the wedges,
Surfboard?
that basically you can. The thing that does this. No, it has like the wedge, like it goes in, pops
I know
the
what you're
tire
talking
off, and can like it's that one of those. He said he bought one of those a while ago.
I get.
But yeah, that's on the shop list once we get enough money. Never will
You know what?
happen, to have our
You know
own
what's
shop.
on that list as well? A shop.
I
Space.
was gonna say, yeah. Once we get, this is a very basketball moment. It's like first we get the khakis, then we get the chicks. It's like first we get the YouTube channel, then we get the shop, then we get the money, then we get the tire changing machine.
See, I don't even like of all the things to have in a shop. I don't think that would be. That would be very, like, down the road type of a thing, because like I just don't see us changing our own tires. If we have big shop and tire changing machine money, we have go down the street and get a professional to do it money. I don't know. Like I'd much rather obviously there's the lifts, there's the tools, but
Yeah.
hopefully, I mean, again, hopefully at that point, one of us has a truck, maybe even Greg sooner rather than later. God willing.
Yeah, I mean, like if we have money for a shop, we'll do that. Plus, I would rather have someone else do it because then you can build relationships elsewhere in the automotive industry too, whether that be just a local tire shop or what have you. Like, I also just enjoy like talking with other car people.
Yeah,
So,
and then there's the
for
thing.
me,
Like,
I would rather have a
imagine
shop
trying
change
to
the
take the
shop, change
tire
the
off of
tires.
the wheels on your car.
Oh yeah, like I would. I mean, I don't know what I'm
There-
doing.
well,
I would destroy
There's no
everything.
sidewall. It's like I'd be so worried about destroying
You're
my
right.
wheels.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm not. Doug goes, I got a deal on a rebuilt Corgi. Didn't know they rebuilt dogs. That's interesting.
Now with normal
I'm
sized
sure
legs.
that's That's the tire changing machine. I wasn't really looking for it, but it was for sale in the building next to me. So no transport either. That is highly convenient. Come to my shop and bring beer. All those problems are now solved. Done. I will be driving 2 hours and 45 minutes to get my tires changed.
Next year at Carlisle, there's just a line outside of Doug's house.
There is no Carlisle. It's just Doug's tire.
Well, that makes me
changing
feel a
shop.
little better about like entering like a burnout contest or some shit.
That's
Doug!
true. That's true. Yeah. So I've only brought 2 tires, and there's a reason for that.
I have PBR. Go.
PBR, Yuck City.
Greg is bougie with his beer intake. Stop resizing yourself.
I'm not doing anything. I blame you.
Clearly.
So last week, in case anyone missed it, and that is was watching last week, we were talking about segueing from Chad's Ram 2500 story. Last week we were talking about the F-150 sleeper programs that you can find sort of across the country. And Lebanon Ford has done it. TC Customs down at Town and Country Ford in Alabama does it. There's like I think Performance Ford around here also does it, but I don't quote me on that. There are Ford dealers all across the country where you can basically get a new F-150, and it's a sleeper F-150. So it's like a single cab, it's a work truck, has a couple of like bells and whistles. You can still have like the big screen and CarPlay, working air conditioning, but it's a cool program because you can buy it from factory. It comes with Steelies, so it comes with these like tiny little Steely wheels. You can upgrade them if you want, but it also has a Roush supercharger on it, and you can upgrade even further. I found out to a Whipple for an extra $3,000 through some of these dealers, depending on who you go for. So all of that, a 2024 truck, supercharged, all-wheel drive. Actually, I came to find out some of them are all-wheel drive, not just rear-wheel drive.
Four-wheel drive.
Or four-wheel drive. Sorry, yep. For under $50,000, which is pretty sick. I'm gonna be honest. Brand new truck, supercharger, Coyote 5.0, going to be reliable with a factory warranty, 700 horsepower for under $50,000. That's actually a pretty sick deal. However, there's been a lot of backup from what I've done in my research on this, on some of these things. I think some of the manufacturers of the components are not able to deliver as many either superchargers or what have you for these trucks this year. So I think a couple of people are actually discontinuing the program, or a couple of dealers are actually discontinuing the program and potentially not even doing it for 2025 and potentially not even doing it ever again. So that is a huge bummer for some of these things. However, what we were talking about doing is, instead of doing that, trying to find a truck that's like between 4 and 7 years old, because you can get a deep discount, obviously, if it's very high mileage. We have Chad's spare Gen 2 Coyote just chilling there. If there is something with crazy high mileage, why not find a F-150 and just swap Chad's engine in, which we know takes boost very well. And worst case scenario is, cool, got a lower mileage F-150 with a lower mileage engine F-150, which is great. And if you can, put the boost to it, which would be very cool. So sort of floating that idea as opposed to the F-Type R idea or C6 Z06R, C6 Z06.
Greg's buying a race car.
Yeah, yeah, C6 Z06R. What was it? It was the C7R was the one I was thinking of in my brain when I was saying that out loud.
He said C6Z and was thinking C7R.
Yeah.
And I'm the one. Come on. Tighten it up, Greg.
Sorry. ADD runs rampant.
Who are you?
So yeah, it's an interesting scenario, and I'm wondering, my thinking, or I'm sure you can do this obviously, but I'm curious what it would cost between the big three to do something like this, because you have Ram TRXs out there with Hellcat engines in them, obviously. What if you get something that, like you were saying, like a 2500 or just a regular Ram 1500, and threw either a Hellcat motor in it or something like that? Similarly, getting an older Silverado and chucking like a cool like LS3 with a supercharger in it. If again, if these trucks have like either blown motors or like stupid high mileage, because you can find pretty good donor motors for either of those, with pretty
Wait,
low
wait, wait,
mileage
wait,
for
wait,
like
wait, wait, wait,
not
wait,
insane
wait.
money.
You're telling me there's an excess of LSs in junkyards?
I know. In related news, the sky is blue.
Golly, you learn something every day.
I know, but yeah, it's really interesting now that I'm trying to like get into this realm, because now I'm thinking of like, ooh, what other cool trucks are out there? Ooh, what else could we do? Ooh, this, that, and the other thing. I know we have a Coyote motor at our disposal. It's like just there, but now my brain is just like running rampant of like, things, power, trucks, yeah. So like obviously I know where you sit in this camp, F-150 and Coyote, because you're a big Coyote enthusiast. You're a big Ford person. Of the other two, which would you gravitate towards? Sort of an older Silverado or an older Ram 1500 to like shove one of the same manufacturer's motors in it? We're not doing like insane swaps in this scenario. Like, would you throw a Hellcat and a Ram 1500, or would you throw like a pissed off cammed supercharged LS3 into like a Silverado?
Probably go with the F-150. Well, it depends.
Well, there's your
So,
answer.
what's the goal, right? Like, so I only ask this.
Same as the goal that I would have is just to have a cool,
So, are we still doing like
big
are
V8
you
truck.
still doing like a flip kit, lowering it and making it into like a cruiser that also has a bed in the back, or are we
Yeah.
making like an off-road build, or
No, I'd say the same as the F-150 sleeper program, because that's the whole like spark for this idea, right? Is, lowered, cool wheels, flip kit, um, supercharged V8 up front. Doesn't have to be single cab, but that sort of idea, like sport truck, if you will.
then I would go GM for that. If you were doing an off-road build, I'd go with a Ram. For no
Really?
other reason
Why's
other
that?
than like I haven't seen many. I know the GM platform trucks are doing a lot of the same things the F-150s are doing at the strip and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I know they had a little bit more issues with. I know Cletus was like breaking all manner of stuff on his when he tried to
Hmm.
mimic the F1.
Wait, which one was his?
He did a get.
Was that the GMC he
Yeah, he had
bought?
a GMC, which is a
Oh, okay.
fancy Silverado.
Right, right.
Um,
But it was the same thing. It was like a single cab,
It
right?
was, yeah, it was the same basic premise as what he did with the F-150. He was just doing it in a GM
Yeah.
platform because people have feelings
Mhm.
about that. Um, I've seen that, but like there was, it seemed to break more than the Ford did. But I've seen that. I haven't really seen many people do that with the Ram platform. Not saying it hasn't been done, just hasn't come across like my desk, so to speak. If I was doing an off-road build, I'd probably go with the Ram just because there's a pretty decent formula there. They do have some off-road stuff, and so there's some part interchangeability. I don't really think I'd mess around with like doing any sort of like same family of engine swap. If it's relatively modern, just slap a supercharger on top of it and call it a day. Like they make kits for all of these trucks. Like it's just a smarter way of doing it. I mean, yeah, sure, it'd be great to
Right.
put a Hellcat into it, but it would also be great to not spend $30,000 to $40,000 on putting an engine, as opposed to six
Yeah.
thousand dollars for a supercharger kit, probably another grand or two for labor, and another, let's say, a grand for tuning.
Yeah.
you know, you're half the price of a
Which is
Hellcat
interesting.
engine alone. So
Right. And that's an interesting point to bring up because I mean, and by run the numbers, I mean just like in our own brains, not actually ran the numbers. But we talked to our buddy Jeff over at Blue Sky, here in New Jersey, and essentially to do the swap at his shop, for basically a Coyote swap for an F-150, it would be between $4,000 to $6,000 for us because I'm sure he's helping us out with pricing a little bit. Um, giving us a bit of a friends and family kind of discount there. But the swap would be between $4,000 and $6,000. Let's call it five. Let's just meet in the middle, right? So swap would be 5 grand. There are cheap ass F-150s out there that are modern, and I'm not talking like old stuff. I'm talking like I've gone on Car Gurus, and there's a couple of like 200,000 mile plus F-150s out there, single cab, crew, super crew, or otherwise that are under $10,000, like work trucks. There's one in Duluth, Minnesota right now that is a 230,000 mile one owner F-150 for $8,500, which for all intents and purposes is cheap as chips because Coyotes are very reliable. They definitely have the pedigree to be long lasting engines, but 230,000 miles, you could rip that one out, put your V8 in it, right? Your Coyote in it, and then just have a spare engine should you need it for parts and or if your engine goes kablooey for absolutely no reason. Oh, look, there's it's high mileage, but like, oh, there's another engine that you could put in it to actually make it work. So you're muted.
sorry, I didn't want to talk over you. Um, or we do a raffle with our viewers. You know, they write us a nice little essay on what they would put it in, and whoever has the best or whatever, we pull names out of a hat, and we'll see if like Anthony can fit it into an 850 chassis or something. No, I'm kidding. Like, yeah, it's nice to have. It's nice to have a spare engine lying around. It's also nice to have something that's equity, to where like, would you get a lot of money for it? No. Would you get $500 to $1,000 for it? Yes. Would that cover, say, the tune of the truck? Yes. Like,
Definitely.
yeah. I mean, I think it's really cool. I think I look, from my perspective, especially since like you first started showing like real interest in this, from my perspective, especially with the direction the channel's going, especially in the next few months, hopefully, assuming life stops, roundhouse kicking us to the nuts.
Yeah,
And we finally have that time to sit down and focus on what the long form direction, especially for the Garage Channel,
right.
and that builds aren't going to be a huge part of it. We are going to have vlogs and stuff, and the cars are going to be a part of it, and stuff like that. And this is kind of to address Doug's comment. He goes, "I love the idea, but doesn't that shift you a bit into a bit Ford focused? There's so much in there. Shifting lanes, winning. Ford, yeah. Focused, Ford focus. I see what you did with the wordplay there. Stick to port. It seems to let that brain fire on all 12 cylinders. You know, and that's not to say we won't do stuff in the future, but we have found with what's successful in our short form a certain kind of formula. And
and format.
Right. Oh, that's kind of sort of, yeah, exactly. Don't interrupt. This thing's like a diesel engine. Once it drops below rev, it takes me a minute to get back on boost.
sorry. Spool up.
We're gone. I'm rolling coal. But from what I look at, would it be cool for you to have, like, say, the GM truck and have that Ford versus GM rivalry? Yes.
Sure.
But then it wouldn't be much of a rivalry, especially once he starts approaching 650 horsepower on the LQ blocks, without really having to do much to them. That would be cool, but it wouldn't. All-wheel drive automatic is going to absolutely stomp on my car until I decide that, you know what, Clutches, I just replace right around the same time I replace tires, or every two sets of like that's how you make a manual go fast down the drag strip or whatever, which is cool, but like whatever. Like I don't want to. We can't do that often enough too for that to be a backbone of a channel or whatever. But so for me, when I look at this whole situation, there's a 1 + 1 equals 5 out of this. And that is one, Greg gets a truck that needs a motor. One, Chad has a motor. Greg and Chad work out a deal for said motor. That goes into the Mustang. And at the end of the thing, we've kind of, in one swoop, ended up with two vehicles making over 700 horsepower at the tires. Right?
Right. With the truck version not costing 50 grand, which is the whole tangent that I was
Right.
going to bring it back to, is like the whole idea is predicated on the F-150 sleeper program that is still going on but may or may not be defunct in certain dealers, right? So could you do that with a local shop that won't cost 50 grand? And the answer to that is, I mean, yes, definitely, because you can get an F-150 for cheap. You can get an engine, not yours, but you can definitely find Coyotes out there for relatively decent prices, used. Coyotes are great engines. They are a very over-engineered engine, which is great. Um, you can find a shop that will install them relatively cheaply, or if you want to do it, do the swap yourself. Cool. And then if you have any funds left over, slap a supercharger on it. Cool. And then go to town. And both of the transmissions that the modern F-150s use, the 6-speed and the 10-speed, both take to the power pretty well. The 6-speed, I believe, being optimal due to ratios and the things.
Well, it's
But the
just
10-speed
less.
also holds up pretty decently.
10 speed's such a chode of a transmission too. It's almost as like
I mean,
it's almost as
they put it in the GT500 though, or is that a very highly modified version of it?
no. The GT500 is a legit dual clutch.
Oh, it's a totally different transmission. I thought it was a variation of the
The
10.
10 speed is in all of the GTs. So you're
Mm-hmm,
partially
mm-hmm.
correct in that it made its way into 20. I forget the exact year. It might have been right around 2018 when they put the 10R80 into the Mustangs. It was a 6R80 before that. The 6R80s
Okay.
are just stronger because they're, again, when you have a transmission, you only have X amount of space in the tunnel. So when you're cramming that with 6 gears, they can be a little beefier. When you're 10 gears, as Jeff can allude to, the gentleman at Blue Sky, transmission issues with that much power and four-wheel drive launches kind of go hand. Now, don't get me wrong, and I want this on record forever. Thanks, Google. I want it to be known that if your goal is to do four-wheel drive launches, there is a lot of beefing up that needs to happen in the driveline. It's not a plug and play.
If you're supercharged.
If your goal is 10 seconds or 11 seconds. If you're going to be
Oh,
launching
for sure.
hard four-wheel drive, that's a lot of mass to move or inertia to overcome. And I'm not talking about the weight of the vehicle, even though that's a part of it. I'm just talking about the inertia of just the axles, the transmission, the drive shaft, the rear end, the diffs, all of that. So there is stuff, but it is formulaic. It's been done enough now to where we know it's like, okay, really to get the most life out of this, you do valve bodies, or you take out some of the clutch packs and you replace it with this, or you make sure you have this type of torque converter, etc. There's a formula to it to make it reliable.
All right, so then let me ask you this as part of this. Let's run some like hypothetical numbers here. So I kind of know we did this offline, but I want to do it here on stream just because I'm really curious. And since I have you live and you sort of know around the pricing of certain things, let's just say we're going to go with a single cab work truck of an aluminum body F-150, so 2015 plus, right? Let's say we find one for $8,000. So we'll say $8,000 is your base cost, right? Your engine, as it sits, is probably between $5,500 and $7,500. Let's meet in the middle and add $6,500 for engine cost because we know it's a good engine. We know it takes to boost, and it's relatively low miles for a swap. So let's say that. So we're at 14.5 already. We said before that the swap from Jeff would be between $4,000 and $6,000. Again, let's meet in the middle, call it 5. So now we're at 19.5. Now that is a truck with a known good engine swap in, say high mileage truck, right? High mileage engine truck with a known good engine swapped in. And basically everything inclusive of the swap. So that's a truck with a essentially, quote unquote, new engine. And it's not really a swap; it's a replacement, right? It's not really. We're not like swapping an LS into a Miata here. So we're at under 20 grand for that to happen at the shop we're talking about. For the other things we're talking about a supercharger install. We're talking about we're talking about lowering. We're talking about wheels. We're talking about a flip kit. We're talking about potential transmission reinforcement. So let's talk about all the peripherals that would need to sort of happen for that build to be brought to completion. So lowering suspension, we'll start with that. I've seen that ranging anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 for an F-150. Again, let's meet in the middle. Say we can find something for 3 grand. Does that sound about right to you? Muted.
If you're doing this sort of stuff, I would always just price high.
Okay, so we'll say 4,000. For that. Cool. Supercharger and supercharger install. I would imagine it would be comparable just for the supercharger line item itself to the Mustang. Because same engine.
Yes,
Supercharger
it's a different
that fits on a Coyote.
It's a different install because centrifugal versus positive displacement. But what I will say is, so from there, I would just assume 10K.
Okay, so plus
that's including
including
tuning.
Okay.
I don't know enough about these. Let's just see here. LI, I don't know who they are. Let's just assume that.
Oh, by the way, sorry, Joe, over on YouTube, Streamlabs is apparently helping to moderate this somehow. You can ignore that. Please refrain from sending long messages. You can send long messages. Don't listen to that. I don't know why that's there.
Yeah, that's weird.
It also says Streamlabs. I need to be added as a moderator in order to remove messages to perform this action. You can do this by clicking this to the right of my name. Is Streamlabs monitoring and moderating us on YouTube?
Well, what it should be doing is just looking out for bad words.
Right. Which is why I'm very confused. So, also, hello, Joe, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. I hope you hang out and chat a little more. But yeah, don't listen to that.
So-
You can send as long a message as you want, as long as it's not a manifesto. That'd be great.
Yeah.
We want to keep chat relatively clean.
Again, I don't know the F-150 platform crazy well.
Yes, but you know Coyotes, so
Yeah.
let's say, all right.
I know
so
what they'll
we'll say
respond
10
to.
grand for install, supercharger itself and tuning.
Supercharger itself and tuning, probably. Oh God! See, the problem is that Jeff installed literally everything all in one shot, apart from like the headers and the exhaust. So he installed the trans, the supercharger, the stop the hop kit, all of that all at once.
Right, so it's all lumped into one thing, so it's hard to like. I'm sure there's. Line items
let me
on
put
your
it to you this
receipt,
way:
but like,
he's done it on his truck, so he's pretty familiar with it. So you're probably not going to have a lot of labor time.
Right.
So you figure, I would figure somewhere in the neighborhood of 6-ish hours, maybe a day.
Okay.
Just because trucks are inherently pains in the cock to work on because of
Yeah,
because
sure.
the engine's so low compared to where the fenders and
Yeah,
the hood is. Um,
sure.
I would range 2 to 5 for that. I would probably say it's about
Okay.
um,
So let's say four.
and then you're probably looking at anywhere from. Actually, let me look at this supercharger kit real quick.
Let's say wheels and tires are another $3,500 because you're gonna want something that's large enough, wide enough, and sticky enough to actually be fun. So I would say $3,500 could solve that. 20s, maybe 21s or 22s. Uh, Again, just throwing widths out here, 285 plus is probably what you're gonna want to put that power down. If you're going supercharged, you're gonna want 300s plus at minimum. So let's just say 3,500 for wheels and tires.
Keep in
Um,
mind, you will have double the grip.
well, right.
The one thing,
So either way,
the
let's just say
one thing
3,500
I
because
would,
once you get to 20 plus, it's going to be expensive.
one thing I would have to look into is you're going to have to upgrade the fuel system. You can get
Hmm.
so you can do this on any form of you can get a pump booster, which um, effectively ups the output of your existing fuel pump. Um,
Okay.
I don't like that because they're.
Don't like.
So here's the thing: you can have fuel, but there's two types. There's fuel pressure and there's fuel flow, right? You could be flowing fuel but not have
Right.
a lot of pressure behind it, so you're pushing things. Um, you really want that pressure, especially if you get a Gen 3 Coyote. You're going to have high pressure fuel pumps that are going to be demanding fuel because of the DFI. So you're probably going to have to budget somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 to 2,000, if not 4,000. I can't see if the inject fuel pump. Oh, okay. All right. So the supercharger I looked at, you can delete. It does come with a fuel pump. Fuel system. Okay, so the supercharger price I quoted comes with fuel pump, spark plugs, and injectors. So you don't have to worry about that. So that saves you about $4,500 right there. So that's good. Um,
Okay.
so you're gonna want to spend. You're gonna want to budget $300 for oil pump gear and crank sprocket. Oh, actually, you're not gonna need to do that if
Okay.
you get my motor. But
True.
if you don't, that's a thing. Um, but yeah, um, that's on the. I'm just trying to go through the engine side. You're not gonna have to worry about that.
Sorry, wait, that that 2 to 5K, was that the trans reinforcement? What was that again?
No, we haven't got
That I said for 4K? What was that again?
wheels.
Oh, okay. So I actually added that
Um,
twice. So hang on. Minus 4,000. Plus 4,000. Okay. All right, we're good.
and then
I have the correct number
the
now.
trans stuff, I don't know enough about. That could, I mean, there's a flex plate, valve body rebuild, valve like upgrade. That's like $5,000 to just a simple clutch pack. That's like $900. Like I don't know enough about that. Um, that would be 100% a Jeff question because it'll come as some surprise to you guys, but I don't know that much about automatics. Don't drive them.
Yes. Yes, good point. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it, man. Good to be back. Uh, so look, as it sits,
Before you start
if we're
thinking
looking into
about
trans. Before we even get into transmission reinforcement, we're already at $41,500.
It's not bad.
So it's not horrible. The the interesting thing here is if you buy an a high mileage F-150 and you get a younger Coyote, meaning just like younger in mileage, not necessarily year, um, and you get it replaced, you can get a basically newer-ish F-150 for under $20,000 if you look correctly,
Right, and there's a lot of
which
things,
is really cool.
there's a lot of things. So there's a lot of things you can do, right? Like there might be, like it might take Jeff an hour to put a supercharger on a motor that's sitting on a stand and not in the
Right.
in the truck. You know, there's a
Right.
lot of little things. With the engine out, it might become redonkulously easy to run fuel lines. Like I don't know enough about that, but
Right.
you know, and you're obviously, well, I mean, we haven't, to be honest, following the same. Actually, you probably could go the opposite route, but like the route I went, where I like built everything for boost and then added boost, is a route you could go, or you could just add the supercharger. You won't make as much power, but I think Jeff is running on a stock exhaust, and he's pushing 650, 700 on his truck.
Right. And that's what I was saying. That's also what I was thinking. Like, we could do the truck engine, exhaust, headers, wheels, suspension, and stuff like off the rip, and not do the supercharger right off the bat.
Right.
Which would be awesome if we could. But you can get a sick truck with a great sounding exhaust, headers, and you'll still get some extra power out of it with like the headers, exhaust, and other things, right? Not that you'd be getting like oodles of power, but like it would sound amazing. It would look really cool. It would just be like a great NA V8 truck, right? Then you save up for the phase 2 and you go for the supercharger the year after, right? So that is a very cool potential, I think, there, because I think even with the engine replacement, the flip kit, the suspension lowering, the wheels and tires, and the exhaust and headers, I feel like you can get that for under $30,000 without question.
Right, and you end up with a pretty decent street truck. I mean, here's the thing, right? You're basically restoring the truck to like a stage 0 type of a thing. And
Right.
that's what I'm looking for here. And I mean, and not for nothing, going hog right off the bat doesn't leave you time to figure out if you like it.
True. That's a great point as well. So if this is something that you do and you're doing it for channel, because you're going to want to make videos off of it, and then you're doing it because, you know, cool V8 pickup truck, which is always an excellent plan. And then all of a sudden you're just like, I'm really not feeling this. Well, you can still sell it, most likely at a loss, which, you know, you're not going to make all your money back on something like that. But you sell it for, you know, say it's going to be $28,000. I feel like you can sell that truck for between 20 and 25 pretty easily. So you're going to sell it at a loss for a couple grand, but you're going to have money left over out of that you can roll into something new.
Right. And I mean,
For
think
sure.
of all the mulch you'll be hauling in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. So yeah, it's a really interesting proposition, and if we can make it work, I think it'd be really cool. Not just for the channel, but also because, like, who doesn't like a big V8 truck that has the potential to make 700 at the wheels within a year or two time? Like, that's pretty freaking fantastic as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, like there's that option. There's the there's always the option of like like I've been talking about F-Type R with this thing, which is a cool proposition. I've also had a revelation today. Um, you know, I've been talking to the guy that bought my old V70R, and he's selling it, and he has some buyers that are interested, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder if I could buy that back from him, sell this, and get a Chevy SS. Because then you have a weirdo 5-cylinder engine that we all love, but you also have an LS3 V8 daily driver that could do hauling duties. I still have a wagon, which I'd be happy about. Um, and it's also two relatively unique cars because the SS was not very high production, contrary to what a lot of enthusiasts believe. They only sold like I looked at the numbers today. They only sold like 2,700 in 2014, 2,800 in 2015, only like 3,000 in 2016 and 2017. So it was pretty low volume for a Chevy sedan, albeit a enthusiast based Chevy sedan. Sure, that wasn't really a Chevy; it was really an imported Holden. But you'd think I would have think that they have at least sold 5 to 10K here in the U.S. But no, never even approached those numbers. So it's a low volume, pretty rare, unique, cool domestic import, if you will, that has an LS3 in it. I mean, I don't. There's not a lot to not like there. Um, it is one of the epitomes of modern sleeper sedans.
Right, but will a Coyote fit?
I was waiting. It's like, what is Chad? How's Chad gonna shoehorn a Coyote into one of these vehicles?
Oh, believe you me,
But
if it wasn't for if it wasn't for money, one of them would have it.
oh, for sure, no doubt.
I mean,
Um,
here's the thing. Um, I mean, look, whatever you think you're going to get the most enjoyment out of, that's the route you should absolutely go, or the experience,
Sure.
or like Jaguar offers us one experience. Your old V70R offers another one. A Chevy SS offers that sort of muscle car vibes. The truck offers something completely different, right? It comes down to
yeah,
you know what you want at this moment in time, and like it's a tough one because like you probably have a lot of memories and you enjoy that car, but to me, and this is me not trying to talk you out of it, it's me just more pointing out something that just popped into my head about that particular scenario.
yeah, of course.
And that is, are those, as weird as this is going to sound, are those cars too similar to one another to, right? 5-cylinder versus V8, different experience. But wagon, basically a sedan with a hatch, big sedan, right? Like the driving experience around town, what could be the only difference would be the sound it makes. And don't get me wrong, that's a huge deal. But those are two very...
Oh, yeah.
The overall, like, they made wagon versions of the Commodore, right? Like, so...
Right.
So, it's one of those things that if you went down that road... I mean, not for nothing, if you did that, you probably could afford if, let's say, you go out, you get your old car. The Polestar gets sold. Well, who's to say you couldn't do any of the other options we've talked about, because the Polestar's paid off, like no loan or anything on it.
Correct.
So that's a $25,000 check, or bag of cash, just lying around for you.
Yeah. I feel like you can get 30 for it, honestly, as it sits, because it has a lot of stuff. Because I have a full set of like winters and whatever that could come with it.
No, but what I'm saying is you always assume. But what's the guy selling your old car for?
18.5 is the listing
Okay.
price.
Few things there. Number one, you really should stage an intervention for him. I feel like he's been hitting the crack pipe a little too much.
I mean,
That is an obnoxious
honestly,
amount of money
as
for a
that
car
car
that's been hit by a
sits,
tree.
it's.
Not hit a tree, been
I
hit by
mean,
a tree.
so I honestly think it's not that bad of a price considering that when that happened, it was over a decade ago. And I get that the Carfax says total loss. There is a clean car. There is a clean title to it. And I truly do believe that the total loss never happened. I still do believe to this day that that is an error on the Carfax completely. And that just because of what I went through with the junk status of it, I believe that there is some like weirdo history in that Carfax that is not entirely correct. That being
Right, but
said,
here's the thing with
I
that.
don't think that I don't think that that is a wildly outrageous price for that car, considering what's done to it.
Right, I get all of that, and I get where you're coming from with that car, but it's not what you think, it's what banks and other people think. Right? The value of the car
Sure.
is in the eye of the beholder. So for you, it's got one value for everyone. It's just, it'd be a shame for one of those things to where, like, after 6 months, the nostalgia's worn off. You're like, all right, that's cool, but I'm ready for a new, like, the new experience or whatever, right? Not
Yeah.
saying that's going to happen or not. It's just looking at it. Now, that being said, that's not too far off what you would put down on any vehicle, regardless of what it is.
Correct.
So, to me, it's you're effectively liquidating the Polestar. At which point, that gives you so many more options, right? Like now, I
Right.
can charge you 12 grand for my engine, and it won't hurt you so bad.
Oh no 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 no. That's not real. No no no. Don't you go there.
um, but I don't I don't dislike the idea, and not for nothing. It's I mean, let's face it, you're probably going to want to put a heavy duty clutch in it because you're notorious for destroying the clutch in that thing. Um, but
Well, interestingly enough, on the SS, from what I've gathered over the last couple of days, just 'cause I always look at cars now. I'm not an SS kick. Um, the manuals on that are actually the weak point, which is interesting because the clutch is pretty vague as far as an engagement point. And the automatics tend to be in a straight line. If we're talking about like you know V8 cars, in that sense, they tend to be the faster cars,
the
even
automatics in
with
every straight
a
line car are the faster cars now, especially in the muscle car world.
sure, sure. I would, and this is a what if scenario, but I would venture a guess that if this car behind me had a manual version of it, it would be faster because of how laggy this transmission is. And from what I've read, the is it a six R80 or 6E80 or whatever it is? Whatever. It's a six-speed manual, six-speed automatic in the SS. Those are definitely the more robust
Yeah,
transmissions as
well,
far as
that's
it's concerned.
across. I get what you're saying, but across the
Yeah,
board,
yeah,
the
yeah.
automatics are the stronger boxes. Let's case in point. If I
Hmm.
my original car was a 6R80 car, I wouldn't have to do anything to it apart from maybe a different torque converter, but that's it.
Right,
As opposed to the manual, sending it off to Calmer and having it rebuilt.
right.
You know,
Keep going. I'm just opening my garage doors.
why? Ew, Greg's sweating. Um, you know,
I'm not sweating. It's just it's very humid in here.
again,
I'm like,
to me it all comes
oh my
down to me
gosh,
it all comes
I
down
need
to what
fresh
car
air.
does what, right? Like if you're looking for that straight line vehicle, well, like here's the thing, right? Like number one, without hopefully divulging too much, I know your wife's thoughts on the V70R as a quote unquote family car. So the other vehicle would almost have to serve the family car purpose. I don't mean to oversimplify, but I'd also don't want to overshare.
Sure.
I mean, look, we all have a car that we wish we never sold. I wish you would look into, getting an Aston Martin with a blown engine so we could do some fun things.
I have actually. There's actually quite a few out there.
In the sense that, but to kind of put a bow on this, and I'm going to step aside real quick. Unfortunately for you guys, I'll be back. Is the V70 doesn't have to come with an SS unless that's exactly what you want. At which point, please, by all means, go get it. If you need a pushrod cammed V8 in your life, do it. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, you're all for that.
Well, it's not that I'm all for that. I'm all for if that's what you want, right? Here's the thing.
Sure.
One of the things, as a friend, I kind of gravitate towards is making sure when people are making decisions, is that what you want or is that what you want right now? Right?
Yeah,
Is this,
I get it.
That sort of a thing. And I know you pretty well. And I'm not saying the SS is a bad option. I think they're really cool cars. I think they're the closest thing we've had to a stock car in
the conversation, yeah. Yeah, agree.
And everything. It's, but again, right now, well, if we look at it this way, right? Like, you have the Polestar, which isn't liquid. But if you had that Volvo wagon that effectively gives you an extra 10 grand to play with, that opens a lot more, that opens a ton of doors because, and I'm not saying, you would use a down payment to just buy a more expensive vehicle and keep the monthly payments the same, right? Instead of 15 down, you're putting 25 down for an example.
Sure.
But it does open that door. Or it
does,
opens the door to more modification because your payment goes down. Or you just say,
correct,
I'm still putting the 15 down and I'm going to keep this 10K to do stuff with.
Right. And that's sort of like where my head is at. Like, before you go, like, my whole thing is like, I always will want something different. That's just how I am. I just want something that's going to be able to be semi reliable. And I will say that V70R never let me down except for once.
Oh, it's going to be a nightmare now. It's going to be a nightmare now that I should put that out in the universe.
Sure, now that I've said it. But it literally never left me stranded except for once, and it only left me stranded a quarter mile from my house because one of the hoses cracked and was just peeing coolant onto the exhaust. Thank God it didn't catch on fire. But or was it? Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Is coolant? I'd like to think that coolant isn't flammable.
It was definitely smoking, very much so.
Right. Well, it'll do that. And anyway, minutia.
But either way, I will continue chatting with chat as you step away and continue to listen.
One thing while we're on this, I don't want to backtrack when I come back, is also make sure it's for. Actually, let me rephrase this. You always want something different, right? I think you could say that about just about anyone in this chat right now, anyone watching, any car guy in general, right? I mean, just look at Doug. I'm pretty sure he bought 4 more cars.
30 motors.
I'm pretty sure he bought 4 more cars since the stream started. But don't look at it as, for me, in the position I'm in and the position you're in. Now, look, I understand I went Mustang to Mustang, right? But I went from Mustang to Mustang with all the options that I wanted or wished my other car had. And number 2, I had a shit ton of parts lying around. Like, the maximum value is in a car.
Right.
But check boxes, right? Okay, we did the V70R. Check. We did the V60 Polestar. Check. What's the next car? We did the Aston Martin. Check. We had a Subaru phase. Check. And you have to weigh that. What's the next option? Because I feel like if you got the V70R, it'd be like, oh, I remember this. This is so cool. Blah blah blah. And then you're like, and then you're gonna pass an F type or whatever, and you're gonna think, I had.
Yeah, I get
You
it. I
have
get it.
that Volvo experience. You don't have the F type experience. You don't have the pickup truck that can knock the doors off of Hellcats checked, right? You don't have that
Sure.
American muscle car itch scratched, right? You don't have those experiences, and like while we're young enough to enjoy them, having that ability to just check off experiences, right? Like think of it as like vacation,
Sure.
right? You know, you go to Maine every year, right? But I'm sure there's other spots where other vacations you guys take where it's like, oh, we haven't been to Colonial Williamsburg or the Outer
Right.
Banks
Right.
or you know Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, like all these little things
Right.
that you're just checking off the boxes that like that's kind of how I look at it. Now you're obviously not me, which is probably for the best, especially for your wife and kids. Um, so like your thought process is a little different, but that's like the perspective I wanted to add. It's like we have an opportunity. You have an opportunity here to check a new box, and
Sure.
again, I get the pull of your old car. I trust me, I do. I miss my old Mustang every day. Like I just everything about it. Now, fortunately, I can get that back, but like there is a part of me that is like kind of like I don't know. Maybe I should have went Corvette this time, or maybe I should have done this time, or what have you. Right? Like there's a little bit of doubt, and again, that V70R is a historic car for you and for us. Um,
Right.
Doug asks, serious question: has anyone done an EV hot rod build on YouTube? Yes, I think someone LS swapped a
Yeah.
Tesla, but I don't think that's what he meant. But
That
Greg,
was
you can
Rich
discuss
Rebuilds.
But on that topic change, later.
Yeah. So no, and I know Chad will continue listening to this. So the whole reason my brain is now going back to V70R, and I've talked about this previously on stream and previously to Chad. It was like, oh, the nostalgia of it. It's such a cool car. It's one of my all-time favorite wagons. But also, there is an underlying cause as to why I sold the V70R in the first place, along with the E90 M3 that I had, which was supercharged. And honestly, the V70R and supercharged E90 M3 is a two-car solution that is just wildly amazing. You have your all-wheel drive Volvo with winters that can perform in the snow. It can also be a really nice car and will turn a lot of heads. E90X M3 or E90 M3 or E9X platform M3, high strung V8, very cool car. There's NA builds, there's supercharger builds, there's twin turbo kits for it. It's a pretty versatile platform. That two car solution for me was very, very cool. The whole reason, and I really mean the whole reason why I sold both of those cars to get the car behind me, the Polestar, is one, I needed a reliable form of transportation. Now, the V70R and the E90 M3 were never unreliable to me. I will say that. However, a high strung German V8 that was borderline 10 years old and a 17-year-old daily driver Volvo that admittedly was built with shims and sort of dummy proofed for daily driving and stuff like that. That two-car combination is not exactly a reliable idea scenario. When my kids were both still in preschool, I needed to be able to drive to the next town over to deliver them there, right? Now it's a very different thing 3 years later. Both of my kids are now in elementary school. I literally can walk to the other side of my neighborhood and pick them up every day. My wife has graduated grad school, and she is now working at our local library as a librarian. Congrats, wife. Love you. You're amazing. And great job graduating. She is now at a job And if she needed to, she could come pick up the kids, whatever. Not saying that she can't in this scenario, but I literally have the opportunity to walk to the other side of my neighborhood that with children takes about 15 minutes. It's not that far, quite honestly. Like we're talking like half a mile, maybe. It's not far. But with a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, like they're sauntering, they're picking up acorns, they're picking up leaves. They're exploring on the way over. It takes a while. Either way, I can literally walk to the other side of my neighborhood and I'm at the school. I don't have to have a vehicle to deliver them to education now. That's sort of where my mind is going for this idea. It doesn't necessarily border on nostalgia for the V70R. V70R to me is just a beautiful wagon. It really is. It is an all-time top 5 best designed, best looking wagon ever made, period. To me, that car is in that conversation. To be able to have that plus something else, whether it be another E90, cool, great. That's awesome. Again, I don't have to have a reliable vehicle. And if you have two, if one of them is broken, the other one probably isn't. In this scenario, they're both relatively modern enough to not be total shit shows. The the biggest thing is the reliability to be able to just go around town. And I work from home. I don't need that reliability. As long as I physically can be there during weekdays to pick up my children, that's really all that matters, quite frankly. So, a two-car solution or a car and truck solution in some of these scenarios is what I'm sort of like getting at here. I don't necessarily need the most reliable, piece of transportation anymore. The whole reason for this thing was that because I know the P3 platform from Volvo is, I think it is going to go down as the most reliable platform they ever made. You can say what you want about 240s, you can say what you want about 850s, blah blah blah. They are getting on an age where some of them, there's still probably a lot of them that are very reliable, but you cannot argue against 240 platforms being 30 and 40 and 50 years old because they started in 1974, 74, 84, 94, 2004, 2014, 2024. That is a 50-year-old platform. 850s, they came about late 80s, early 90s. That platform is now 30 years old. Those cars, as reliable as the Volvo community makes them out to be, are also not the most reliable things. This thing, however, has literally given me zero problems, and the entirety of the P3 community is basically the same thing. The P3s, before they went to the new platform, and the new platform is pretty good, these things I think are going to go down as the most reliable Volvos that were ever made. I just have the hunch because it's the last of them being like really good engineered engines, and not that the new ones aren't, but I feel like the 6 cylinders in these things, specifically the SI6 motors, are just really good. They're really good. Yeah, Doug makes a good point. Oil consumption on the T5s. The T5s are probably the outlier here. I'm talking specifically about the T6s and the 6 cylinders. I think that is going to go down as an all-timer, honestly. And maybe not just for Volvos. Like there are very few P3s that I've seen that have been like absolute shit shows. Specifically, again, the 6 cylinders. So the whole thing here is like, and to Chad's point of like checking the boxes, like I want to experience new things. Totally. I also want to experience the things that I just enjoy. And quite frankly, the 5-cylinder sound, I miss it. Like Chad said, he misses his old Mustang. Like I miss the 5-cylinder sound every day. I miss the sound of the 5-cylinder more than I miss the Aston Martin. I miss the Aston Martin as a whole more because that car was just very special.
I bet we could put a
Hand
5-cylinder into a Miata for 25K.
I mean, you could also do that. That would be sick. I also don't want a Miata. Miatas are great. I don't want a Miata. I want something else that's really cool.
Or a BRZ.
Also don't want a BRZ. Again, great car. Don't want one. Um, but either way, the whole point of this conversation is I don't need that vehicle where I have to take my kids to another town to drop them off. So, this car, while utterly fantastic, zero issues outside of the O2 sensor when I swapped the downpipe, has given me this is probably the most reliable vehicle I've ever owned. And that's not a small sample size. It's 3 years. The only thing I've done in this car outside of routine maintenance is that O2 sensor well, we broke because I didn't install the downpipe. Sean broke it, but the O2 sensors sometimes break when you're doing downpipes on these cars. So a known thing. Literally nothing else. Everything else has been routine maintenance. Brakes, sure, routine maintenance. Oil changes, fine, routine maintenance. Everything else has been routine. There's nothing has broken on this car at all. And I don't think it will. It's just a really solidly built car, honestly. It's a great car. And again, same thing with the 6 cylinders that are not Pulsars. They're all really good. And it's a cool car, but I want 2 cars. And I want 2 cars that are also interesting. So to me, like a V70R plus an SS or something with a V8, the whole genesis of this conversation is just like, I want a V8. I don't really care where it comes from. And I forget who said it earlier in chat. It was like, it's an opportunity to have a V8 because V8s are being killed off. That is, I think it's more that than anything else. Because, and it's not that I feel like I'm missing out because I've owned a V8. I've owned a V8 Vantage. Cool. I just feel like I need one in my life, and then my life will be complete. Like it's that sort of feeling, you know?
They're God's engine.
Right. So I feel like I just need a V8 in my face every day. It's just there. I have it. I'm just like, V8, fantastic. Because again, I don't give 2 flying shits about MPGs. I don't. My use case, and I said literally almost every stream now, my use case for an EV is really good. I don't take a lot of trips. They're all small trips. They're all around town, and most of them were picking up my kids from this, that, and the other thing. Also, I don't care about MPGs because I'm not driving insane distances.
Overrated.
I could have, but I could have a low mileage or a low MPG V8 and do the same thing, but it also will sound amazingly good. And it will make my heart so much happier. So like the SS in that sense, or even like a Challenger or a Charger or whatever, like, or even a Mustang, with the seats in the back, like you can fit booster seats back there, right? So like, I can still pick up my kids in that kind of thing if they go to like t-ball or gymnastics or music class or this, that, and the other, whatever they're doing, hockey, skating at Men in Arena, it doesn't matter. I can still pick up those kids in that car. To me, that is something that's a box that I want to check. Whether it be an SS, whether it be a Challenger, Charger, Mustang with the seats not deleted, like whatever. Like I want that. That's something I want. And a cool complement to that would be a V70R, right? Like just an interesting. Like, should I just do this? Should have had a V8. Like the old school marketing campaign. But like, do you know what I'm getting at though? Like, do you hear me? Do I feel seen with you?
No, look, I get it, right? Like, I get the allure of the V70R. I'm not trying to talk you out
Yeah.
of the V70R.
Yeah.
I'm not trying any of that. The only point I was trying to make is that you said it yourself. You want a V8, right? Like you want something
Yes.
like that. And if, for example, so if like I said, I can't help but look at it from a certain perspective. Is that you're liquid by 15. Let's just say you're 15,000 liquid, right? And getting the V70R fulfills the wagon need, scratches this five-cylinder sound itch. Now all of a sudden you've added again 10K to play with. What that second car is, again, it should be something you really, really want, but it should be something, in my opinion, that is different from what you've had or will have, right? Like, I'd almost rather you see go the V70R route and the F-Type route, just so you have that sports car, that sort of purpose-built feeling, as opposed to a... Now, there's something very cool about a sedan with a big V8, especially one that's push rod, that you can put a big cam in, it can have lope, right? Like, that's all very alluring, but the Jaguar is a different experience.
Right. It is.
A truck is a different experience. What else were you looking at that was in the vein? But at any rate, not to get bogged
Challenger,
down.
Charger, Hemi stuff.
Like,
again, because that's like stuff that I haven't experienced that.
Right.
As a car I've owned. Right.
And the tricky bit in this right now that we're living is the market's starting to come back, right? Like, if this was last year or a year before, get whatever, because chances are you're going to get more for it when if you decide in 6 months, year, or whatever, to sell it.
Right.
Everything else, now we're looking at it is that you might be buying high, selling low. What car won't do that as badly, right? It's like, it's part of the equation so that you get to experience more. It's kind of a thought.
Right.
You have your meat and potatoes with the V70R, right? Like, that is a known thing. You will enjoy it. It's like when you go to your favorite restaurant, you order the same thing every time, right? Because you know what you're getting and you know what you enjoy. You might enjoy this new dish more, but you might enjoy it less, right?
Sure.
So you'll take let's just say your enjoyment goes up to 100. You'll take this 85 as opposed to risking to get 100 or 65. Right. So I look at it from that perspective. I do honestly think that you need to get back in the V8 game, just because.
Yes.
Any of the V8s we've talked about, with the possible exception being the Jaguar, just because Jaguar. It's not difficult to add power. It's not difficult to add to the occasion. It's not difficult to, you could slap a fucking Whipple on top of an LS3 and have the time of your life.
Yeah.
And it'll be reliable. A Jaguar stock with a supercharger is a bit of a roll of the dice. Let alone putting a different pulley, headers, tuning and that sort of thing.
But which, by the way, C6 regular, not Z06 or Grand Sports, because those seem to be the ones that get the biggest amount of money. But C6, just base C6 with an LS3, very affordable.
Right,
you can find them for 20 to 20K, 25K all day long.
But not the experience. If you were going to go the LS3 route, I would almost say get the SS over the Corvette. I get that they're two different.
I would agree with that,
because there's something about the SS with that engine, whereas with the Corvette, it's like,
correct.
I
know. But I will say though, a base, or not a base, but like whatever, a C6 with an LS3 in it with a supercharger on it, I think that's a very different scenario, because then it's just,
but I mean, Grand Sports you can still get for 35 all day long.
Totally true, very true.
And now you're getting a platform that is Z06 ready.
Correct.
Right? Just not with the LS7. Yeah. Again, we could.
Sure.
We could go blue.
There are many routes here.
Right. Like, again, and I guess we'll kind of wrap with this. Again, it's in a lot of ways, it's like dating. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, there's the girl. You're like, wow, look at that. I love this one specific thing about her. Now I understand you're married, so like, you know, you don't have balls anymore. But
I once dated. I know what you're speaking of.
those poor women. Um,
I know. Those poor girls. Ugh.
but
Sorry, everyone. I
but
dated.
like you sit here, like you go for the girl that's a smoke show, right? You're like, um, you know, you like, oh look at, but you know, she every now and again just hauls off and smacks you. It's like, okay, it's fine, but just look at her, right? And then over time, that
Yes.
gets old, right? And I'm not saying you're picking a forever car or what have you, because that shit's exciting, right? It's like, oh, everything's going
Right.
well, like, but you know, there's an excitement to that, right? Just like having a
Right.
car where it's like, okay, everything's working, it's awesome. Okay, we're good, you know. So, bottom line is it's always exciting when you're looking for a new car, right? Especially if it's out of want, not necessarily because you don't need a new car. You got,
No.
you know, everything is, um, I mean, your car works perfectly fine. Your wife's car works perfectly. It's not needed, but you want it, and you're in a position to
Yeah.
where that want isn't going to compromise you as a dad, as a husband, as a, I don't know, member down at the Elks Lodge or whatever the crap you Randolph people do. You know, so it's exciting, and you should be excited, and you should, you know,
Yeah.
be like, ooh, F type, and then the squirrel that is the SS scurries by. You're like, ooh, SS, and then an F-150 drives by. You're like, ooh, fast sleeper truck, and then like something else drives by. You're like, ooh, like that should be it. It's just I'm not here to be a wet blanket.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
here to just make sure, as your friend who's known you way longer than you probably wanted, to say, hey, like, I get what you're saying. It's like when you send me like, it's Greg will send me like, ooh, this car's intriguing, and it's like some random ass Mercedes AMG 55, whatever. Like, that's
Yeah, I sent you a C63 AMG the other day, which, by the way, the modern C63 AMG has the 4-liter bi-turbo V8 that they put in everything else, and it makes over 500 horsepower in a C class, which is just insane. But
and when it was
you can
brand
pick them up for
spanking
like 30, 40K.
and when it was brand spanking new at test days, it absolutely annihilated its own brakes.
No, that was an E63 actually, the red one, right?
No, the black one. It was a C63.
Oh, I don't remember. I don't think I drove that one. I remember driving the AMG GTR and the E63 back to back. They were both red.
Right, this was a black Merc that I was like really stoked to drive on track, and they were like, "Nope,
Interesting. I don't remember that one.
yep." But the point of it is that like you, all these tangents. Doug's point about short attention span or what have you.
Yes.
It's like I don't necessarily think this is a short attention span. I think it's more of like literally kid in a candy shop with a budget, right? Like, ooh, I want the
Right.
M&Ms. Ooh, I want the Reese's. Ooh, I want this. Like, like spoiled for choice almost, and that
Yeah,
you know.
because as it sits, like if I don't do anything with this car, basically what I'd want to do is put 10,000 down on something, and then I'd have money left over for mods.
Right.
So that's sort of like what that is. Like if nothing else happens, part of that is just like, oh, well, I could sell this, get another reliable daily V70R or not. Like you can find other T6 versions of this car for like 10K less. You can find XC70 P3s up to 2015.5 for about the same price. You can, I mean, hell, you could even sell this, get a a modern Camry for 20 grand, and then, ooh, well, there's just another chunk of, like you're talking about, like another 10 grand chunk of change that you put into something really cool. So, like, there are, there are a bajillion ways you know, stuff this animal. It's like there's a way there's so many avenues that you can kind of go down in this theoretical, right? So like to me it's about what's going to give me the most enjoyment. And again, someone in chat had said this about views, and I forget who did it. I want to say it was Doug, or it was either Anthony or Doug, about like views and like what is, so the whole thing about Shifting Lanes Garage is like doing what we want. We're not doing it for views anymore. And I think once we get back into the long form stuff, it's going to just come through as passion, and that will then lead to views. That's sort of where our mentality is for this whole thing. For me, it's less about like what's going to get the most views and more about like what I'm going to be happiest with. And at that point, then I think the views are going to come. V8 in the corner. But that like then the views will come because like people will see the passion and they're going to come back as like, oh, not only is it a cool car, because I think everything we're talking about is a cool car. None of them are just like boring. And then also just like you really enjoy it. That then brings people back. Because like if you look at like we always talk about Freddie. If you look at Freddie's stuff, all of his stuff is cool cars, but it's also he enjoys building them. He's actually like having fun doing it. I mean, you know, other people doing this too. Sam Crack, like he really enjoys going to the auctions, finding a good deal, figuring out what's wrong with it. Like, it's just an interesting story too. Like, there's so many things that are just like people buy a car just because they think it's going to bring them views, and I'm just like, I don't care. Because we have like the short form stuff that's performing for us, and like we have the stream with you guys, which we're super thankful for, and we love you guys. We also have long form stuff on Shifting Lanes. We also have other series that we've done on this channel that have been successful. Like your Mustang has a couple of videos have gone well into the tens of thousands of views. This thing has multiple videos in the tens of thousands of views. Like it's not about the views. It's Steve, more passion, more footwork, more footwork. It's that exact meme. It's that meme just in car form. So yeah, it's more about like buying something you want and make and you're interested in, and then other people will be interested in that because you're interested in it, and they come back for you, and the car just happens to be there being a cool thing in the background.
I look at it from that perspective, absolutely 100%. I also look at it that unless you are a Freddy or a big channel who is literally building shit, and like you have that base and let's face
Right.
it, sponsors.
Sure.
The pressure to make, for me, what always got with the builds and everything, the pressure to create content that was performing at a certain level for every single part that I put on the car, and almost having to justify it from a purely business standpoint is exhausting.
Yes,
It
agreed.
is not something I enjoyed at all. It's part of the reason why, like, as a thing I drove, like doing stuff at like Tail of the Dragon and like, you know, some of the back roads around here and stuff, I thoroughly enjoyed the C30, but it will always for me be attached to being in the garage at work, trying to figure out how to put these intake manifolds or this intake on the car before sunrise, because I was on a deadline, A, to get a video out, and B, I had to be out at a garage before the maintenance crew showed up, right?
Right.
Like, and then secondly,
I think it's a very. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and then secondly, again, like I said, if you don't have sponsors, there's not really money in builds. I hate to be a wet blanket or what have you, but it just isn't. For the money you have to, let me put it to you this way. All of the Mustang videos combined, all of them, are but a drop in the bucket of what that thing costs to build. Like, maybe 10%. Maybe. And I'd be generous, and I'd be thrilled with that.
You
So
also have to think about like what the bigger channels are spending their money on too, because they are getting a metric ton of views comparatively, but that money goes back into the build. So they either live off the views revenue or they live off the sponsor revenue.
right.
There are economies of scale here at that point too. So you
Right. Well,
have to
I'm
be like,
building a
oh,
Mustang.
well, they're
Tavares
getting
is
two. Right, but you have to, like, you're getting 200, 300, 400,000 views per video, sure. But if you think about it from okay, a car channel doing builds gets like a $5 RPM. And if you get 500,000 views at a $5 RPM, that's only $2,500. Like,
right.
when you're doing a big build, that is not a lot of money.
No, and that's the point I'm trying to make is that unless you have multiple different avenues of income, or
Yes,
you're getting a 5, 10, 15K per video sponsor, the
exactly.
money's not there. So why that look, I'm not saying Shifting Lanes Garage will always have some variation of a build either in the works or on the channel.
Yep.
That'll always be part of it, but it'll be because of what got us into doing that shit to cars in the first place. We got into modifying cars, or at least I did. Social media wasn't a thing. It was just I want a cool
Right.
car. I want to make it faster. I personally love the idea of my car punching above its weight. It's why I love when I had my Focused. I love being able to just shock the living hell out of Mustang and Camaro guys. Right? And now that I have my Mustang, it's, well, the silver one at least. We're pushing power levels and stuff that are punching, in the GT500 Hellcat ZR1. Well, not the new one, but we're punching in it above the weight, and that's what I loved about it. And that's what I'm gonna, frankly, that's the way my cars are gonna go. We have we have found something, and the content you'll
Yeah.
see on that channel is going to be the bread and butter is going to be of a certain variety, with vlogs, with cars, our cars being a part of it, but we're not building the channel around it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that is entirely correct. And to Steve's point of don't you get many views on the shorts? Yes, we do. But shorts pay drastically less as far as revenue per 1,000 views is concerned because you're talking about these minute long things as opposed to a long form video, which is more of a quote unquote production, right? And it doesn't have to be a production, but even someone that's doing a simple vlog, they're taking their camera, they're saying, hey, this, that, and the other thing. There may be some scripted points, there's some bullet points, there's a lot of footage to look through, there is editing to do, blah, blah, blah. Like the shorts comparatively take also drastically less time to produce. So whereas a 20-minute vlog might take between 2 to 10 hours to film, edit, cut down, a short may take 30 minutes to 2 hours to film, cut down, and produce.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a inherently larger time suck with the long form stuff. Exactly what Anthony said. They still pay, they just don't
A
pay as
lot of it
well as long
also
form
a lot of
stuff.
it also is that, let's just say you make a 12-minute video and they watch half of it, they're on the
Yes.
platform for 6 minutes. You make a minute
Yep.
long short and they watch half of it, they're on the platform for 30 seconds.
Correct.
And
And
there's all the data in the world that, the longer you keep someone on a platform, the likelihood of them clicking on an ad or clicking on XYZ increases.
yeah.
Uh,
So to give you sort of a quick behind the scenes of like what we make, a long form video could make anywhere between $4 to $16 per 1,000 views, depending on what it is. Some of our reviews have paid very, very well. Specifically, a couple of ones that have stood out are Toyota 4Runner videos and Hyundai Palisade videos, strangely enough. They've paid insanely well. And they've brought in a good amount of revenue for us. Build videos, very much less than that, usually ranging between $4 to $8. Um, The shorts, however, if you're talking about just comparatively to YouTube, those bring in about 21 to 25 cents on average per 1,000 views. Because what they're banking on is you looking at a short, swiping, and continuing on platform. Looking at that short, swiping, and continuing on platform. Same thing that TikTok does. Same thing that Reels does on Meta. It's the whole keep them on platform, give them little bites, and you continue to keep them on platform for longer. That's the whole shebang about social media platforms like this. They want to keep you on platform. Reels and short form videos are another opportunity for them to do that. So we have had thank you for the pity stars, Doug. Appreciate that. Um, we've had short form stuff that has gone totally bananas. Like actual viral videos. I made the dumbest video ever of my car going through a scratch wash with um, little blasters. There's like soap blasters, and it was literally a 30-second clip of this car going through that and me squirting it, and it got 9.9 million views on Facebook. I don't think it did anything anywhere else, and it made a good amount of money on Facebook. I think it made like $1,500, which is great. But that was over the course of like its entire run of virality. If you took 9.9 million views and made that a long form video on YouTube, you would have probably gotten upwards of $40,000 to $50,000. So that is the revenue gap
Yeah.
we're talking here. It is
But
a drastic revenue gap if you're comparing views for views. But here's the thing. You can take shorts, you can put them on Facebook, you can put them on Instagram, you can put them on TikTok, and you can put them on YouTube. So you make one, you put them on everything. It's the same thing. And you
sort
just
of.
accrue income
Well,
through 4 different platforms in that sense.
at its
And
simplest,
maybe one of
yes.
them goes nuts. Maybe one of them doesn't.
Oh, it happens all
So
the time. It happens all. Some
yeah,
will go bonkers on
you're
Instagram, but not on Facebook.
yes.
It'll go bonkers on
You're
TikTok.
hunting with you're hunting with buckshot. That's the whole thing of shorts.
Yeah. But the other valuable thing that we have picked up with short form is we now have in short bites a data sample that shows us that if we were to go to long form, this is what people are viewing. This is what someone might want more of. So instead of a 1 minute long video of Greg talking about XYZ news,
Right.
would they
It's 5 to 10 minutes of that with
Right.
more in-depth stuff.
more in depth, like a little more, as to use Greg's word, more produced, a little more.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Like the funniest thing is that my editing for the shorts and the reels, I put more time into the editing thought process, not the editing itself, because I think the average rule of thumb for people like us is for however long a video is at the end, we usually have 2 to 5 times that amount of footage to go through, right? Or it takes us 2 to 5 times longer to edit, or there's a huge amount of time in that. Or I would say, in actuality, my reels are a little more than that, because I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to insert a clip, or I'm going to do this, and I'm thinking about that,
Right.
or what have you. So, I think we'll kind of put a bow on this, and then touch on anything else Greg does, or wrap it up, or what have you. But what it has shown us, what we're going to be doing, or what we should be trying, at least, right? And to make a short is a lot easier than making a long form, as we've explained. But I am hopefully, maybe next month, getting into and starting my side of the long form, and getting that rolling. And I mean, let me put it to you this way. Just in total views, Shifting Lanes Garage with its 22,000 subs does 1 million more views roughly in the last month than Shifting Lanes Main with its 95,000 subs. So like think about that, right? Like, but Shifting Lanes the main channel, because it's predominantly long form, makes magnitudes more.
Yes.
So if Garage can kind of keep its momentum with long form, you see where we're getting at. And that's kind of the goal, because if we can create successful content that doesn't want us to that doesn't like suck the soul out of our desire to do this.
Yes.
If we can get on that, that's more money for our cars. It's more money for us to do adventures. There's more money for us to have, instead of, Shift Show being kind of an informal thing where we're kind of meeting places or what have you. Maybe the next one with long form, or not the next one, but maybe down the road, if long form starts to hit, we can rent out a track. We can do a little bit more.
We can buy a shop.
We can have a space, right? Like all of that sort of stuff. So that's why.
What Chad is saying is he's quitting his job and doing this as a full-time thing.
I tried. I tried having a part-time job and being Shifting Lanes being full-time, and they suckered. They're like, "Ha-ha! You're full-time now." Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, but quite frankly, like, food and shelter above Shifting Lanes. Be quite honest.
No, I totally get that, but I know the last year and a third, year and a quarter was nice because I had a part-time job that paid really, really well.
Right.
And now it's a full-time job paying well, or well-ish, but that's a whole nother thing for another day, because frankly, I don't see myself doing this for very long, but I have set it up in such a way that I make money should I decide to exit or should the partnership dissolve. So we have that. But
which is great.
And Steve's edible is kicking in.
It's a good place to wrap, just so Steve doesn't think that both of our heads turn into 1,000 snakes.
But I think we'll just touch on a few things in chat and then call it a night. But Steve goes, I believe that in this group you guys will succeed. I appreciate that. We got Doug's pity stars. Appreciate it. Greg was on the other side of the glass, so he was not moist.
Totally was not moist. Also, yuck.
Exactly. Steve goes, when I get a build going, I'll record the progress. If you guys want to edit and post it on Shifting Lanes, something to consider. But don't enter a build thinking filming it is easy. I don't mean to overstate what we do.
The build.
I don't mean to overstate what we do. When you add that filming standpoint, you effectively double the time it takes to do stuff. Number one, and number two, you're trying to film something that looks good while also doing a job on a vehicle, right? Like, it sucks a lot of the enjoyment out of it. So I appreciate that, but keep that stuff in mind. Like, if you get a build, enjoy it. Yeah, because again, your time with your wife, your kid, etc., is also very important. It's more important. I'll even say that. Elliot goes, yes. I hate that all of these social media platforms just try and play tricks on people in what specific things they show that they know people will click. At the end of the day, if it was your business, you'd probably do something similar. And not for nothing, Google probably first and foremost, with just having Google and knowing what you're literally, Googling. But it's all algorithms. They just want you to stay on their platform. I think one of the platforms, I think it was either Instagram or Facebook at one point, actually had, you've been scrolling for a while, you should go touch grass or something, but they've since gotten rid of that because, well, the dollar speaks. At the end of the day, all this stuff is business. All we're trying to do is tap into that for our own financial gain.
That's right.
Anthony goes, I have one reel with 2.5 million views, never seen a dollar. Well, there's qualifications to be monetized. And you are actually the reason. That exact example is the reason why. They're not going to monetize off of one viral video because you got effectively, you found the needle in the haystack. They want to see that you're committed to it before they start paying out. That being said, some of my most popular reels on Instagram have paid a depressing amount of money. They've paid money, so it's not all that. I can't complain, but yeah,
Yeah.
because I do have a buddy I'm kind of coaching through his social media journey. If you're into techie nerdy shit, the Tech Veteran on all platforms, check him out.
Yeah.
He had his first piece of viral content not too long ago. But yeah, it's a lot. Anthony goes, same Steve. I sent Chad that salvage LFA thing. I like to think that reel was made as a direct result. Yes. Greg didn't just happen across it.
Sure, we'll go with that. I
No,
just
but
randomly found it on the drive.
I definitely do appreciate you guys sending me stuff.
Yes.
And I
If you find cool shit, send it to us.
you know,
we may end up making reels out of it.
we may not, but like it's cool to have.
Yeah.
It's definitely cool to have that stuff at the bare minimum. It's cool when I sit down and I'm like, I don't feel like because Greg is newsy, so like he'll find a news piece. I'm finding stories like the Ferrari V12 powered Firebird one that I did last night.
Yeah.
So
Which is just a wild thing, by the way. It's so cool. But that's a great example. Like, I'll do Copart LFA. You'll do random Ferrari V12 Pontiac that should have never existed. But it does. Like, that's a really cool dichotomy.
You know.
Like, I love that. Or that juxtaposition in the car world.
You know, and to Steve's point, full time means more Mustang parts. Yes and no. I mean, yes, it would mean closer to the final vision of that car. But also, again, it allows for more stuff, right? Like, it allows for, because I see a lot of these big, like, enormous creators doing events. I'm like, that's pretty damn cool. I'd like to do something like that. You know, like, I like that sort of stuff. Do I like it more than putting parts on my car? It's a nice little balance, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But to your point, like, it would be cool to be in a point where, okay, here's the shifting lane supporter battle of the builds, and Steve's got this going on, and Anthony has this going on, and Doug finally actually focuses and has this one thing going on. And, you know, we sit here and we go and we go see what you guys are doing, blah, blah, blah. And then we leave it up to a community to say, all right, which one do you like the most? And we can help out a little bit there. Like, I'm not promising the world, but like that sort of stuff gets me excited for being full time. Like, being able to do stuff for the community. Like, I like that, and I don't see that, right? Like, I don't see that with Tavares has people who watch and people he talks to and stuff, but he doesn't have a community, right? Like, there's not Tavares Palooza or whatever, and, you know, what have you. Let's see here. We should get Shifting Lanes a Netflix series. It's funny you mentioned that. Not working with Netflix, but I do have a, albeit very lukewarm, iron in a fire with a streaming service that is not one of the well-known ones. And that's all I can really say about that. It's more than it's not something to get excited about yet, because at this point it's more than likely something that's not going to happen, but it's there. The conversation has been broached.
Yes.
Doug's working on an 82 Goldwing lately. Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about someone who has a fucking YouTube channel in his garage.
Yeah, agree.
Anthony goes, you see Cletus Freedom Factory is doing an all Nissan Ultima race. Yes, I think you could have actually, that was open to where you could have signed up. I do want to get in on a Crown Vic race. I think I have enough connections to where I might be able to be considered a potential, possible, maybe down the road alternate for one of those races. And then to close things out, we have Steve again going, and then there's Steve. We can't tell if he's zoning out from his ADHD or he popped another L. It is what it is, man. Hey, a guy wandering around a car, wondering what the hell's going on when it's his car and he was just working on it. I'm sure that could be made into content. Andrew goes, what about Motor Trend? I mean, I would, if the money's green, I'll entertain anything. As in any business or any really walk of life, you end up with contacts, and those contacts can sometimes lead you to different spots.
I will be right back.
Actually, Greg, don't hold that thought. Hold that thought. Just stay right there for 1 second.
Okay. Okay.
But, you know, we'll see where it goes, right? Like, we have a plan for the end of this year going into next year. Hopefully it grows. We appreciate each and every single one of you guys for your support, for your helping, for your sharing, for your liking, like all the little stuff that goes longer than you know in the algorithms and stuff like that. We appreciate you guys more than we can say.
More than you know.
Yeah. But I think that's going to be a wrap for tonight.
Yes.
I will say, keep in mind, we have Shift Show in a week and a half.
Yep.
So looking forward to seeing you who can make that and what have you. Look forward to seeing you guys. Again, we have no affiliation with any campsites, hotel rooms, or what have you. You guys are kind of on your own there. But to those of you listening, gates open at 6 o'clock at Island on Friday the 6th. And we are meeting in the Mansfield, New Jersey Walmart parking lot on the 7th at 11 a.m. for the cruise. I'll be posting a lot of that stuff again, but I just wanted to get that out there before we signed off. Again, thank you guys for watching. Greg, thank you for making it 2 weeks in a row. Really appreciate your sacrifice on that. And we'll catch you guys. There's a chat. There's a thing
next week.
But we will catch you on the show next week, same time. But for now, that's a wrap, and we will thank you again, Doug, for stars. Later.